It started just like any other evening. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place. I was sitting in my truck parked outside the grocery store, waiting for my curbside order to be ready. The sun hung low in the sky, spilling orange and gold across the parking lot, but I barely noticed. My eyes were on my phone, scrolling through emails I did not care about, skimming news articles I had already read twice. Then a message popped up at the top of my screen. Maggie, my wife, I cannot wait for you to take me back to the office. I stared at it. My mind did not catch up right away. The words were simple, just a normal sentence. But something about it felt wrong. The way it was worded, the way it sounded, like there was something else underneath. I read it again, and that was when it hit me. This message was not meant for me. For a second, my body stalled like my brain needed time to process what I was seeing. My breath thinned, my fingers clenched around the phone, and a sharp, cold feeling settled deep in my chest. The first thing my mind did was try to explain it away. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe she was talking about work, some meeting, some project. But no, I knew better. Maggie had never looked forward to going to the office. Not once in the 10 years we had been together. She complained about it constantly. Long hours, annoying coworkers, a boss who never gave her a break. She would come home exhausted, grumbling as she kicked off her shoes, collapsing onto the couch like the day had drained every ounce of energy from her. And now she could not wait to go back. For who? I exhaled sharply, my eyes locked on the screen like the message might rewrite itself if I waited long enough. But it did not change. It just sat there, glaring at me, pulling everything I thought I knew about my wife into question. I backed out of our chat and scrolled through her texts. Everything looked normal. Quick messages about dinner, reminders about bills, the occasional love you that felt more like habit than anything real. Nothing suspicious. But cheaters were never careless. They did not leave evidence lying around for the world to see. And I was not an idiot. I knew what this meant. And just like that, everything I had ignored for months slammed into me at once. The late nights. The way she started coming home, freshly showered, her hair damp, claiming she just needed to freshen up before dinner. The distance between us in bed. The way she used to pull me close, but lately had been turning the other way. The locked phone. The little smirks when she thought I was not looking. The way she seemed lighter some days, more at ease, like someone walking around with a secret that made them feel alive. I had been a damn fool, and now I had proof. My grip tightened around the phone, my knuckles going white. Heat built in my chest, slow at first, then burning hot. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. This was not heartbreak. This was not sadness. This was rage. I was not going to sit there, doubting, overthinking, letting her come home and spin some ridiculous excuse. No, I was going to get the truth, even if I had to drag it out of her. I shoved the phone into my pocket, started the truck, and yanked the wheel hard as I pulled out of the parking lot. There was only one place to go. Home, where she would have no choice but to explain herself. The drive home felt like a slow burn, like a lit fuse creeping toward an explosion I already saw coming. Every streetlight, every turn, every red light only made the fire inside me burn hotter. My mind was a war zone. Memories clashed against each other, reshaping themselves in real time under this new, ugly truth. How long had this been going on? Had she ever really loved me? Or had I just been a placeholder until something or someone better came along? And the worst part, the part that made my stomach twist, was the question I could not shake. Who the hell was he? That was the thought that sent my pulse hammering in my ears. The idea of another man touching my wife, thinking he had a right to her, to my life. But maybe it had not been stolen. Maybe she had handed it over. That was the thought that nearly made me slam my fist against the dashboard. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself to stay focused. No point in losing my head before I even saw her. Maggie would be home. I knew her schedule. If she was messing around, it would not be tonight. Not after she had just slipped up and sent that text. No, she would be playing it safe. She would be pretending everything was normal. But it was not. I turned onto our street, headlights sweeping across the same row of houses I had seen 1,000 times before. It was the kind of neighborhood where people smiled too much, where every lawn was trimmed just right, where everything looked perfect on the surface. But I knew better. I pulled into the driveway, cut the engine, and sat there for a moment, breathing in the silence. The house looked the same as always. Porch light glowing, neatly trimmed grass. That damn welcome mat she insisted on replacing every season. But nothing was the same anymore. Not now. I stepped out of the truck, boots crunching against the gravel, and made my way up the front steps. I did not slam the door when I walked in. Did not call out her name. I wanted to see how she acted first. The house smelled like dinner. Something with garlic, maybe pasta. A normal night. A normal routine. The kind of thing I had come home to so many times before. But this time I knew better. I walked into the kitchen, and there she was, standing by the stove, stirring a pot, like she had not a single worry in the world. Her long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts she loved to lounge in after work. She looked so casual, so comfortable, like she had not just sent me a message that flipped my whole world upside down. "Hey, you are home early," she said, glancing up with a small smile. "Dinner is almost ready." That smile. I had seen it 1,000 times before. Used to love it. Used to feel like it meant something. Now it made my stomach churn. I clenched my jaw and set my keys down on the counter, forcing myself to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, got out sooner than I thought." She nodded, stirring the pot again, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. Perfect timing. I made enough for both of us. "How was your day?" I almost laughed. "How was my day?" "Oh, just found out my wife has been sneaking around behind my back." But other than that, could not have been better. I did not answer right away. Instead, I pulled my phone from my pocket, unlocked it, and scrolled straight to her message. I opened it up, reading the words one last time before turning the screen toward her. "What is this?" I asked, keeping my tone even. Maggie turned, and for just a second, one brief, barely noticeable second, her face froze. Then just as quickly, she masked it. Her expression smoothed out like nothing had happened. She frowned slightly, tilting her head like she was confused. "What do you mean?" I took a slow step closer. "The message, Maggie." She wiped her hands on a towel, then reached for her phone on the counter. "Hold on, let me see." "No." I cut in, my voice sharper now. "I want to hear you explain it. Right now." She blinked, hesitated, then let out a small laugh. A laugh. "Oh, that?" she said, waving a hand like it was nothing. That was embarrassing. I meant to send that to my coworker. We were talking about this stupid meeting we have tomorrow, and I must have mixed up the names." I stared at her. Lying. She was lying right to my face. The thing about Maggie was she had always been a smooth talker. One of those people who could spin a story in seconds and make it sound just believable enough. But not this time. Not now. Because I knew. And she had no idea just how much trouble she was in. My grip tightened around my phone, my knuckles straining. My whole body felt stiff, like I was holding back a dam of rage that wanted to break loose. Words, actions, something bigger than both. But I stayed still, watching her. Maggie was good. I would give her that. She did not panic. She did not stumble over her words. No scrambling, no ridiculous excuse that would collapse under pressure. No, she was calm, relaxed even, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times over. Which made me wonder, how many times had she done this before? She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her lips pressing together like she was deep in thought, like she wanted to seem sincere. "I can see why that looked weird," she admitted, letting out a small sigh, like she was annoyed at herself. "I was not paying attention. I was cooking, and I must have tapped your name instead of Erica's. It was supposed to be a joke. About our boss keeping us late again. You know how much I hate that. A joke. A joke. I should have expected this. I should have known she would not break that easily. But hearing her twist it, watching her act like I was the one being ridiculous, it made my blood boil. She was not even scared. Not yet. I exhaled slowly through my nose, keeping my voice level. "So you meant to send this to Erica?" "Yes." She nodded immediately, not missing a beat. "We were talking about tomorrow's shift. She was saying how Todd keeps pulling us into late meetings, and I said something about how I just knew he was going to do it again. And then she shrugged, giving me a small, sheepish smile. I sent that. Meant to be sarcastic. Like, oh great, can't wait for another long night." She was good. Calculated. And if I had not seen that first flicker of panic, if I had not caught that moment where she knew she had been caught, maybe, just maybe, I would have believed her. But I had seen it, and I was done playing along. I tilted my head slightly, still watching her, still weighing every single word. So if I text Erica right now and ask her about this little joke, she will back it up? That was when I saw it. The crack. It was small, barely more than a hesitation, just a fraction of a second too long before she responded. But it was there, a delay that should not have existed. Of course, she said quickly. Too quickly. Go ahead. She called my bluff. But what she did not know was that I was not bluffing. Without breaking eye contact, I unlocked my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I did not have Erica's number. I had never needed it, but I knew Maggie had mentioned her often enough that I could find her. I opened Facebook, typed in the name. There she was. Same last name Maggie had mentioned before, same face I had seen in a few tag photos from work events. Maggie's breath hitched, just barely, just enough for me to notice. She had not expected me to actually do it. I tapped the message button and started typing. Hey, Erica, this is Maggie's husband. I just got a weird text from her that she said was meant for you. Mind clearing something up for me? I hit send, and then I looked up at Maggie. And for the first time since I walked in that door, she looked nervous. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut again, her mind racing to find an escape route. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, my heart hammering in my chest. So, I asked, keeping my voice calm, steady. Anything you want to say before she answers? Maggie shook her head, forcing another laugh. But it sounded wrong this time, hollow, shaky. I mean, she will say exactly what I just told you. But if this is the hill you want to die on, be my guest. She was scrambling now, trying to act like she still had control. And that only pissed me off more. I glanced at my phone. No reply yet. That was fine. Jenna might not even check her messages for a while. But that was not really the point. The point was, I had her cornered. And she knew it. Maggie let out an exasperated sigh and turned back to the stove, stirring the pot like this was some petty argument I was blowing out of proportion. Look, if you're really going to get worked up over a stupid text, I do not know what to tell you. I'm not doing this with you tonight. I had a long day, and I am exhausted. I almost laughed. Exhausted? She had not even begun to understand what exhaustion felt like. I pushed off the counter, stepping closer, lowering my voice. Funny how you are the one who is tired, considering I am the one trying to figure out if my wife is screwing her boss behind my back. Her shoulders tensed ever so slightly. Not much, but just enough. A crack, and I was going to widen it. Tell me something, I continued, my voice steady, controlled. When you get home from work, do you ever think about me? Or does your mind go straight to him? She turned sharply, her eyes flashing with something between anger and panic. Jesus, listen to yourself. You sound insane. There is no him, okay? I made a stupid mistake and texted the wrong person, and now you are. Ding. Her mouth snapped shut. We both turned toward my phone at the same time. A reply. I could feel the shift in the air. The way Maggie suddenly stiffened. The way her fingers curled slightly against the counter. She was scared now. I turned the screen toward me and read the message. Hey, I have no idea what she is talking about. We were not texting today. My breath came out slow and measured. I looked up at her, and now she knew. The lie had shattered. There was no way out. For the first time since this started, she actually looked afraid. And I was just getting started. Silence filled the kitchen, thick and suffocating. The only sound was the faint bubbling of whatever the hell she was cooking, but even that seemed distant, meaningless. My focus was on her. Maggie stood there, her face carefully blank, but I could see it. The tension in her jaw, the slight twitch in her fingers, the way her breath had gone shallow the second that text came through. She knew she was caught. I let the moment stretch, watching her, waiting. I wanted to see how she would try to worm her way out of this. I wanted to hear whatever pathetic excuse she would come up with next, because there was no more hiding. Slowly, deliberately, I lifted my phone and turned the screen toward her. The message from Jenna sat there like a death sentence. Hey, I have no idea what she's talking about. We were not texting today. Her eyes flicked to the screen for only a second before snapping back to me. And there it was, the real fear. It was subtle, but I caught it, the tiniest widening of her pupils, the slight parting of her lips. She was scrambling, calculating, trying to figure out how to spin this before I even had the chance to say a word. I waited. I wanted to see her squirm. She swallowed once, then forced a chuckle. Soft, fake, the kind of laugh someone gives when they're trying to act like they're still in control. "Okay," she said, exhaling like she was amused by all this. I do not know why she is saying that. I texted her earlier. Maybe she just forgot. I did not move. Did not blink. I let the silence stretch between us again. Let her words hang in the air, flimsy and weak. Then, finally, I spoke. "Try again." The amusement in her eyes flickered, just for a second, before she masked it again. "Jesus, are you serious right now? Do you hear yourself?" I took a slow step closer. "Yeah, and I hear you too. And all I am hearing is a bunch of bullshit." Her jaw clenched. No, my voice was sharp, low, controlled. I did not want to hear another excuse. I did not want to hear another lie. "You're done, Maggie. You're done." Her whole body went still. I could see it happening the exact moment she realized she had no more room to move, no more places to hide. She was trapped, and I was going to make her face it. I pulled the stool out from the kitchen island and sat down, resting my arms on the counter. Then I gestured toward her with my phone. "Go ahead. Try again. Tell me who the message was really for." She let out a breath, slow and controlled, like she was trying to buy herself a second to think. But I was not giving her a way out. Finally, she crossed her arms and met my eyes. "It was just a misunderstanding," she said, her voice softer now, trying a different angle. "Playing the reasonable one. You are blowing this way out of proportion. I swear, you are reading too much into this." I nodded slowly. "Right. So, I guess Jenna just magically forgot that you texted her about work?" She did not answer. "So what was it then?" I pressed. "Because it sure as hell sounds like you were making plans with someone. And it sure as hell was not me." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She had nothing. I leaned in slightly. "Tell me something, Maggie. How long has this been going on?" She stiffened. "There is nothing going on." I smirked, shaking my head. "See now that is a bad lie. You should have at least tried to give me something better." Her frustration cracked through. "Because there is nothing to tell you." I laughed. Actually laughed. A short, humorless sound. The kind that said I was not buying a single word coming out of her mouth. "Jesus, Maggie, you really think I am that stupid?" She ran a hand through her hair, exhaling sharply. "I do not know what you want me to say. I told you the truth, and you were just—" "No," I cut her off again. "You did not. And you know it." The panic in her eyes was growing now. She was losing control of this conversation, and she knew it. That was when she switched tactics. She softened, dropped the anger, switched to guilt. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice quieter now. "Why are you trying to make something out of nothing?" I tilted my head. "That is a good question. Maybe it is because my wife just sent me a text that was clearly meant for another man." Her eyes darted away for the first time. She was slipping, and I was not letting up. I tapped my fingers against the counter, slow and steady. "So who is he?" She blinked. "What?" I leaned in. "Your boss. Mark, right? That is who you meant to text." Her entire body locked up. And there it was. The confirmation. "Did you ever come home, look me in the eye, and feel even a little bit of shame?" She swallowed hard. Or did you just lie to yourself?" I pressed. "Tell yourself it did not matter? That I would never find out? That I was just some idiot who would never notice?" She blinked rapidly, her lips parting, searching for something, anything, to say. I was not. Was not what? I snapped. She flinched. The anger I'd been holding back was clawing its way to the surface now, surging through my veins like fire. I pushed away from the counter and stood, towering over her. "You were screwing your boss." Her eyes went wide, her head shaking fast. It was not like that. A cold, humorless laugh escaped me. "Oh, really? Then what was it like?" She bit her lip, shifting her weight from foot to foot, like she was looking for an escape. Tell me the truth, Maggie." My voice was lower now, sharper, more dangerous. Right now, and for the first time, her mask cracked. I saw it. The guilt, the shame, the fear. She had run out of lies. She had nowhere left to hide. And now it was my turn to decide what happened next. Maggie stood there, caught between fight and flight, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. I had seen her in every mood over the years, happy, annoyed, tired, even furious. But never like this. This was cornered animal territory. Her mouth opened, then shut again, as if she was trying to string together the right words, trying to find a way out. But the thing about being a good liar is that you start to believe your own lies. You think you will never get caught. You think you are untouchable. Until, one day, you send the wrong text. I let the silence stretch between us, watching her carefully, watching every flicker of emotion pass over her face. She was calculating, working through her options, weighing her next move. How to spin this, how to salvage it, how to manipulate me one last time. But she did not get to do that. Not anymore. You're out of time, Maggie, I said, my voice cold and steady. So either you tell me the truth, or I will make the decision for you. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. Decision. I folded my arms across my chest. Yeah, whether I give a damn about what happens next. That got her. For the first time, real fear crossed her face. Not the fake guilt she had been trying to pass off earlier. Not the irritation of someone tired of being accused. No, this was different. Because now, she finally understood. She was not dealing with some clueless husband who would get mad for a night, maybe sleep on the couch, and then eventually forgive her after enough tears. No, she was dealing with a man who was done. Her lips parted, and I could see the gears turning. She was deciding, should she keep lying, or should she finally admit what I already knew? The tension in the room was suffocating. Then, finally, she exhaled. Her shoulders slumped, and she broke. I never meant for it to happen, she whispered. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. That is rich. She swallowed hard. I did not. Her voice was quieter now, weaker, like she had lost the energy to fight. It was not supposed to mean anything. I nodded slowly, letting those words settle in the air between us. It was not supposed to mean anything. What a classic excuse. I could have torn her right then, ripped her pathetic justification apart piece by piece. But I did not. Not yet, because I wanted to hear everything first. How long? I asked. She hesitated. I took a slow, measured step closer. How long, Maggie? Her breath hitched. A few months. A few months. It was not great, but it was not years. Still, it was long enough. Long enough for her to come home and lie to my face every single day. Long enough for her to sit across from me at the dinner table, pretending she was not thinking about someone else. Long enough for her to let me believe our marriage was still real, when in reality, she had already burned it to the ground behind my back. I let that settle before I asked my next question. Did you sleep with him? She flinched. That was all the answer I needed, but I wanted to hear her say it. Answer me. She squeezed her eyes shut, pressing a hand to her forehead like she was in pain. I waited. Yes. I did not move, did not react, did not even blink, because deep down I already knew, but hearing it out loud, that hit different. A slow, heavy breath left my chest, and I reached up, rubbing the back of my neck. Right. Maggie's eyes snapped open. It did not. Do not. I was not in the mood for the same excuses I had heard 100 times before. It did not mean anything. It was a mistake. It just happened. I did not want to hurt you. But all those words meant nothing, because she did hurt me. And the worst part, she had made a choice. Every single time. She had chosen him. She had chosen to meet him in secret. She had chosen to undress for him. She had chosen to send that damn text, excited to go back for more. So, no, I did not want to hear her say it was not supposed to happen. Because it did happen, and she let it. I turned away, exhaling sharply through my nose, trying to process the rage that was boiling inside me. Maggie took a small step forward. I can explain. I let out a low laugh, shaking my head. Explain? Explain what, exactly? That you have been screwing your boss for months while coming home and pretending like everything was fine? That you sat across from me at dinner, knowing damn well you were going to sneak off to him the next day. She flinched, her hands twisting together in front of her. It was not like that. Then tell me, I said, my voice dangerously calm. What was it like? Silence. Because she had nothing. No explanation that would make this okay. No words that could undo what she had done. And that was when the realization finally hit her. She had lost. I was not going to forgive her. I was not going to let this go. I was not going to be the kind of man who let himself get walked all over. I took a step back, putting space between us. Because she was not my wife anymore. Not really. She was just a liar who had finally run out of lies. You should probably start packing, I said, my voice eerily steady. Maggie's eyes widened. Wait. I shook my head, cutting her off. No, Maggie. We are done. You made that decision the second you opened your legs for him. Her lip trembled. Please just... I turned and walked away. Because there was nothing left to say. And I was not going to waste another second on a woman who had already thrown me away. I walked out of that kitchen without looking back, my footsteps heavy against the hardwood floor. My head was buzzing, my pulse hammering, but my mind was clear. I was done. There was no second chance. No marriage counseling. No working things out. She had made her choice over and over again, and now she had to live with it. Behind me, I could hear her footsteps trailing after mine, hesitant at first, then quicker, more desperate. Wait, she called out, her voice breaking. Just please wait. I did not stop. I did not even slow down. I reached the living room, grabbed my keys from the table, and headed straight for the door. Where are you going? She asked, panic creeping in her voice now. I turned the knob. Wherever the hell I want, Maggie. You do not get to ask me that anymore. I stepped outside and let the door slam behind me. The night air hit me like a shock to the system, cool, crisp, freeing. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm still raging inside me. I had just walked out on my wife. Or, more accurately, the woman who used to be my wife. Because whatever we had was dead now. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, and gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The anger still rolled through me, hot and sharp, coiled tight like a spring ready to snap. I needed to calm down before I did something I would regret. I did not trust myself not to go looking for her boss, Mark, or whatever the hell his name was. Did not trust myself not to drive straight to his office, kick the door in, and knock that smug son of a bitch flat on his ass. But that would just make me look like the fool, would it not? It would not change anything, would not undo what had already been done. I forced out a slow breath, staring out at the dark, empty street. And for the first time, it really sank in. This was over. I did not even feel sad about it. Not really. The sadness had been eaten up by something stronger, by the hatred of being lied to, betrayed, made to look like an idiot. And now, all that was left was the cleanup. Because this was not going to be some drawn-out, emotional mess. I was going to erase her from my life. She was leaving. She was getting nothing. And she was going to regret every damn choice she made. I did not know how long I sat in that truck, just thinking. Maybe 20 minutes. Maybe an hour. At some point, my phone buzzed. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. I did not need to look to know who it was. Maggie. She was probably freaking out now. Probably realizing she had severely miscalculated. Because women like her, women who cheat and lie and think they will always get away with it, they expect their men to be weak, to forgive, to fight for them, to be so broken that they beg them to stay. But I was not that kind of man. I never had been. And she was about to learn that the hard way. By the time I got back to the house, the lights were still on. She was sitting on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, her phone clutched in her hand. Her eyes snapped up the second I walked in. Where did you go? She asked softly. I did not answer. I closed the door behind me, locked it, and walked right past her. She stood quickly, following me as I headed toward the bedroom. Are we really doing this? She asked, her voice thin, shaky. I threw open the closet door and grabbed one of the empty suitcases from the top shelf. You are. Her breath hitched. You cannot be serious. I set the suitcase on the bed and flipped it open. She took a step forward. Come on, can we talk about this? I grabbed a stack of her neatly folded clothes and threw them into the suitcase without looking at her. Her voice rose. Please, you cannot just kick me out. I turned to her, my eyes burning into hers. Watch me. Her lips trembled. I have nowhere to go. A low, humorless laugh left my throat. That is not my problem. Maybe Mark will take you in. Her face paled. That is not fair. Fair, I repeated, scoffing. You want to talk about fair, Maggie? I grabbed another handful of her clothes, shoving them into the suitcase. Was it fair when you lied to me every single day? Was it fair when you climbed into our bed after screwing another man? Tears welled in her eyes. It was not like that. I slammed the suitcase shut. It was exactly like that. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I still love you, she whispered. I laughed in her face. No, you do not. She flinched. I picked up the suitcase and shoved it into her hands. You have 10 minutes to leave. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks now. You are making a mistake. I met her eyes. Cold. Unforgiving. No, Maggie. You did. And then I turned and walked away. Because I was done. And for the first time in a long time, I finally felt free. I stood in the hallway, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Maggie had not moved. She was still standing in the bedroom, clutching the suitcase like she could not believe this was happening. Like if she stood there long enough, if she cried enough, if she begged enough, maybe I would change my mind. But I was not going to, because I was not like her. I did not lie. I did not betray. And I sure as hell did not forgive someone who did. I walked back into the room, slow and deliberate. She flinched when she saw me, like she was expecting me to start yelling, to finally lose control. But I was not yelling. I was not even angry anymore. I was finished. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. Are you going to leave on your own? Or do I need to call someone to help you pack? Her lip trembled. You really mean it? I raised an eyebrow. What part of you have 10 minutes made you think I was joking? A tear slid down her cheek, and she wiped it away quickly, like she was embarrassed. I thought maybe you would cool down. Maybe you would realize this is not what you really want. I let out a short, humorless laugh. You think I need to cool down? Maggie, you should be grateful I did not do worse. She swallowed hard. I did not want to hurt you. I tilted my head. But you did. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Because she knew there was no coming back from this. No fixing it. No do-overs. This was not a fight where one of us slept on the couch and made up in the morning. This was the end of us. And she finally realized it. Her shoulders slumped, her face crumbling under the weight of what she had done. She looked so much smaller now, so much weaker than the woman I had married. Or maybe she had always been this way. Maybe I'd just been too blind to see it. She let out a shaky breath. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. She winced like I had hit her. I do not have anywhere else. Call him. Her breath caught. She looked at me, eyes wide, pleading. It was not like that. I stared at her. Stop saying that. It was exactly like that. She sniffled, glancing away. You thought you would never get caught. I continued, my voice calm. You thought I would never notice. Thought you could come home every night and play the perfect wife while sneaking off to screw your boss whenever it was convenient. You thought I would never figure it out. She did not respond. Because what could she say? She had done exactly that. You were never going to tell me, were you? I asked. She hesitated, and for a second, I saw a flicker of something in her eyes, guilt, shame, maybe even regret. Then she whispered, no. I nodded. That is what I thought. Another tear slipped down her cheek. I really did love you. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. No, Maggie, you love the life I gave you. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to argue. But she did not, because she knew I was right. She had never loved me. She had loved what I provided. The stability, the home, the safety of knowing she had someone who would always be there. Until now. Now, she had nothing. I pushed off the doorframe and took a step back. You have 5 minutes. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Then, finally, she started moving. She grabbed a few more things, shoving them into the suitcase haphazardly. It was not neat, was not organized like she usually packed. She was panicked now, her hands shaking slightly. Good. She deserved that panic. She had spent months sneaking around, feeling powerful, feeling untouchable. Now she got to know what it felt like to lose everything in an instant. I watched as she zipped the suitcase and grabbed her purse. Then she just stood there, like she wanted to say something, like she thought there was still something left to salvage. I raised an eyebrow. What are you waiting for? Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I did not want you to hate me. I let out another laugh, shaking my head. That is the thing, Maggie. I met her eyes, cold and sharp. I do not feel anything for you anymore. That was the final blow, the last nail in the coffin. She let out a soft, broken sound, then turned and walked to the door. I followed her, watching as she hesitated one last time before stepping outside. She turned back, eyes glassy. If I could take it back, I would. I tilted my head. Would you? She hesitated, because we both knew the truth. She would not. She had enjoyed it. She had gotten away with it for months. The only thing she regretted was getting caught. She exhaled shakily. Goodbye. I did not answer. I just stood there, watching as she walked down the steps, suitcase in hand, until she disappeared down the driveway. And then, finally, I closed the door, locked it, and stood there in the silence of my home. My home, because now, without her, it actually felt like mine again. I took a slow breath, letting the quiet settle over me. And for the first time in months, I felt peaceful, because Maggie was gone, and I was free.